Let's start with the ones that were shocking and slowly work our way towards the most terrifying ones on the list. Number 9, the rectal toolkit. Now, the absolute worst spy device ever created has to be the rectal toolkit. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. The device was a hollow metal capsule that was filled with a generous number of tools to help spies escape capture or neutralize targets. The device was issued to CIA officers during the Cold War. Here's what the devices look like. Could they not have made it any smaller? As you can see, they were clearly not concerned with keeping them compact. They even made sure to add extra saw blades, extra knives, a shark tooth, lip balm, and an extra pair of socks. Now, the reason this sits at the very top of the list is not just because of how it was stored in the body, but for the simple fact that there isn't a single documented case where this toolkit was successfully used in the field. And it's honestly so funny imagining a spy who had to pack this for years and never needed it. Number 8, the glove gun. Easily the coolest weapon ever made has to be the glove gun. The weapon was originally issued to Navy intelligence officers during World War II, but was later copied by the jealous KGB, Russia's secret service. The glove gun was a single-shot weapon that was mounted onto a leather glove, which had a trigger bar sticking out of it, and when a punch connected, the bar was pressed down, releasing the firing pin and letting off the shot. Now, of course, there were only 2 practical and reasonable reasons to ever use this weapon. 1. For some strange reason, the only option available to take out a target was through punch assassination. Or 2. To impress the baddies. But as cool as the glove gun was, it definitely had its drawbacks. For one, you actually had to have a decent right hand, and it should go without saying, but the punch also had to land on the person's head. Also, the glove was only ever made for right-handed users, so if you were cursed with being left-handed, take a seat and stick to the rectal toolkit. It shouldn't come as a surprise, but there are no recorded incidents of any spies successfully using the glove, or at least none that were officially reported. Number 7, pencil bombs. Pencil bombs were devices used by German spies during World War I. These were metal cylinders the size of a cigar that had wax caps on both ends. Inside the container were 2 different acids, which were separated by a copper divider. The thicker the copper divider was, the longer it would take for the acids to dissolve it. But once the 2 acids mixed, they would rapidly heat up, melting the wax and catching fire. German spies placed these inside American warships while they were docked, and days later, once the ship was at sea, the devices would catch fire, setting the ship's supplies ablaze, or sometimes the entire ship. During World War I, over 36 US ships had this jump scare placed on them, and over $10 million worth of war supplies was destroyed. Number 6, concealment weapons. When you think of spies secretly taking out targets, disguised weapons are probably what you would imagine. Concealed weapons were guns that were designed to look like everyday items, so as not to raise suspicion while on a mission. There were many concealed guns used by spies throughout history, but I'll just cover the ones that were known to be used. But instead of just going down the list and telling you about them, I want to place you in a simulation where you as a spy would come in contact with these weapons. Let's begin. This is you. Congratulations, you are now a spy. Now, of course, before we can begin, you know what to do. It is the height of the Cold War, and you have been assigned to a mission in Russia to take out one of the most diabolical villains, Sergei Sergeyevich Sergeyevsky, a well-known graphics card reseller. But you have to be careful, as there are many enemy spies lurking about, and you can't be certain who you can trust. Scene 1. You are sitting at a bar, waiting for your target to walk in. The bartender looks at you and asks, "What can I get you?" Do you say A Klysishevska Svietla Piva, B, a water, C, nothing? If you chose options B or C, congratulations. No one enjoys being around you, and you should really consider loosening up. Not everyone is out to get you. While waiting for your target to arrive, you step outside for a quick smoke. You reach for your pack of cigarettes and see that you are completely empty. A man that is smoking next to you is kind enough to offer you one. What will you say? A, no thanks. B, yes, I'll take one. If you chose option A, you're dead. You've just been killed by the cigarette pack gun, a concealed weapon invented by the KGB. But of course, it was never officially used, according to them, and we can definitely take their word for it. If you chose option B, you're dead. The correct option was never smoking to begin with. Scene 2. Your pager has just gone off, and you've been tipped that your target is a few blocks away at a nearby coffee shop. It's estimated that he'll be on site for 5 minutes. You get in your car and begin to drive as fast as you can. But just as you reach the corner of the coffee shop, a very old woman is slowly crossing the street, with precious time ticking by. What will you do? A. Wait for her to slowly cross the street, remain hidden, but potentially lose your target. B. Get out of the car, help her quickly cross the road, but risk being seen. If you chose option A, wow, you're just a terrible person. If you chose option B, you're dead. You've just been killed by the cane gun, a multiple-shot weapon disguised as a cane, which was used by the British SOE, CIA, and KGB during World War II and the Cold War. As you can see from my perfectly executed simulation, being a spy was not as cool and easy as the movies make it seem. There were many other concealed guns used by spies throughout history, but I'll just cover a couple more, starting with the lipstick gun, also known as the kiss of death. It was used by female KGB agents during the Cold War. Now, lucky for you, you never had to worry about this weapon in the simulation, since it would have required you to get near a woman. The flashlight gun. This was a gun that looked like a regular flashlight and could fire up to 4 shots. This weapon was used by the CIA, KGB, British SOE, and most recently in 2011 by North Korea. Number 5. Chemical poisoning. Now, easily the worst way to be taken out by enemy spies has to be through the use of chemical poisons. No, not because it can be an extremely painful way to die. And it is, but simply because of all the humiliating ways spies like to use them. After all, is there anything more embarrassing than being killed by a doorknob? There have been many high-profile cases of spies using chemical poisoning to take out or attempt to take out targets. Now, you're probably thinking, chemical poisoning sounds a lot like cheating. And it is. The exploit was even patched in the 1997 World Update. But a few countries like North Korea chose not to sign the treaty, so they continue to spam it against their enemies. Then there's the recent situation with Russia, who did sign the No Chemical Weapons Treaty. But in 2018, an ex-Russian spy was taken out with poison in the UK by 2 Russian intelligence officers. So the world turned to Russia and said, "What the hell? You literally agreed not to do that anymore." But Russia was like, "Hold up. I know you guys caught the 2 guys who did it, and they were active Russian intelligence, but look, we didn't do it." Which was a major sigh of relief. Number 4. The umbrella. Let me place you in a short story so you can see in real time how these spy missions actually went down. You are currently at a bus stop waiting to be picked up to head to work, when suddenly you feel a slight sting on the back of your thigh. You quickly turn around and see a man behind you picking up his umbrella. The stranger looks up at you and quickly apologizes. A few moments later, a car pulls up and that stranger gets inside and leaves. A few hours have passed and you are now at work, and you begin to come down with a fever. So naturally, being a guy, you decide that the best course of action is doing nothing, which doesn't work, and you end up at the hospital. As the fever worsens, you spend the next 4 days struggling to even breathe. Sadly, these will be the last days of your life. Let's break down what really happened. You see, that stranger at the bus stop didn't accidentally drop his umbrella. What really happened was that man had shot a 1.5mm ricin pellet into your thigh, then played it off as an accident. The pellet left a wound in your thigh smaller than a grain of sand, which makes it nearly impossible for anyone to discover. This exact story isn't one that I just made up from thin air. This is the story of Georgi Markov, and it happened in London in 1978. Markov was a famous Bulgarian writer who defected from Bulgaria, which just means he escaped the country, which was communist at the time. And once he was in Western Europe, he began to heavily criticize Bulgaria's communist regime on news and radio stations, which hurt the leader of Bulgaria's feelings. Now, of course, today we all know that communist leaders are incredibly sensitive. The only reason we even know of the umbrella weapon's existence was thanks to Markov explaining to authorities what had happened to him at the bus stop, which led authorities to search his leg for the wound, which they eventually found. Shockingly, the wound just looked like a small pimple. Number 3. The pen. This isn't just any regular pen. In 2011, intelligence officers in South Korea confiscated this pen from a North Korean spy who was sent to kill a defector. Now, if you or I saw this pen in the wild, we wouldn't think much of it. We would pick it up, obviously click it a couple of times for no reason, Then of course, click it off the table to see how high it goes. But once we saw that the pen doesn't have a nib, we would set it back down. But you see, that pen wasn't designed to work from the start. And if you were to twist the back of that pen clockwise 3 to 4 times, then click the back button, a poison-coated needle would shoot out the tip. The needle was accurate up to 10 meters, or a little over 30 feet, and as you can imagine, there was no shortage of poisons that could have coated that needle. Number 2. The mist gun. The cyanide mist gun has to be one of the most terrifying weapons ever used, and was mainly used by the KGB during the 1950s. Here's how it worked. Spies would wrap the mist gun with the newspaper, allowing them to easily blend in. They would casually walk to their target, and as they walked past them, they would raise the newspaper to the person's face, and with a squeeze of the trigger, a fine mist would spray out the end. And before that person could let out a cartoon yell, they would be on the floor, struggling to even breathe. And within seconds, they were dead. 2 Ukrainian men were taken out in this exact manner by the KGB. And since this was the 1950s, before advanced forensics, the doctor simply eyeballed them and deemed that they died from heart attacks. And it would have remained that way if the assassin had not later confessed to the killings. Number 1. The heart attack gun. The year is 1972 and the massive Watergate scandal had just broken. 7 burglars believed to have been sent by President Nixon's re-election campaign had just broken into the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. in the hopes of stealing documents and wiretapping phones at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Obviously, this was a time when politicians actually tried. But here's where things get interesting. 5 of the 7 burglars had past ties to the CIA. President Nixon then made the rookie mistake of attempting to use the CIA to obstruct the FBI from investigating the break-in, initiating a cover-up. The scandal dominated headlines for over 2 years, which led to a major collapse in public trust towards the US government. The American public demanded transparency from intelligence agencies, which forced the government to reveal many of the CIA's dirty and illegal secrets. Things like mind control experiments, the infiltration of many civil rights groups, spying on the general public, spreading propaganda, and the endless assassination plots on foreign leaders. You know, stuff that they said were just conspiracies. But those were all peanuts compared to what came next, and the only reveal that we still care about today: this handgun. Obviously, the scope on the handgun clearly indicates that it was mainly used for trolling, but nonetheless, it was outright deadly. You see, the gun didn't fire regular bullets. In fact, it fired a frozen projectile made of water and shellfish toxin, one of the deadliest poisons on the planet. For reference, a lethal dose is about the size of a poppy seed and can kill in just a couple of minutes. If that wasn't scary enough, the poison was also completely untraceable and mimicked a natural heart attack. But get this, after years of developing the weapon, as well as stockpiling enough toxin to take out thousands of people, the CIA claimed that the weapon was never used. Which, just for the record, I 100% believe.